Da-da-da! We are back. The No Name Cinema Society is back in action, and it is time for our classic discussion of the evening. And as you can see, this poster isn't our best work, but maybe this is a better example. We have The King and I coming up, and I am one of your hosts. I'm Jonathan Betzler. I'm here. I'm representing San Francisco Giants. Made the second wild card. Last time they were second wild card in 2014, they won the whole thing. And so that they start their playoff run to Wednesday night on October 5th. So keep an eye on them, and they're playing the most evil team around. So we won't mention their names. But tonight we're going to talk about The King and I, which is a film directed by Walter Lang, and it is a film version of the famous musical from one of the greatest collaborations of all time, and I'll get into that later on, Rodgers and Hammerstein. And we have our own great dynamic duo here with us tonight. First, our own Richard Rodgers, the wonderful composer. Here he is, Jay Money.
Oh, me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
He's been waiting to say that for 6 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. And also our own Hammerstein, the poet, Davy Joe.
Hi.
That's him. Yeah, wordsmith. You can sense it from him. So tonight we're talking about The King and I right now. Here's our whole schedule for the evening. We've already done Hands of Stone. You can find that on YouTube. And it won't be live, but it'll still be beautiful. We talked about it maybe longer than it deserved. The Interrupters. We had a really interesting discussion. You guys liked that, right? That was good, even though we went long.
Yeah, no, that was good.
It was great.
So Interrupters is a documentary from Steve James. We talked about that was our Indie Spotlight for the night. We just finished that, which is why we started this one 15 minutes late. But those of you that watch this later on YouTube, you won't know the difference. But it is 6:17 Pacific time right now, so we're a little late. So we're going to try and condense this. This will be one of our shorter classics ever. And in fairness, it's been 45 days since we've done this, so we're a little out of practice. At least I am. Do you guys feel like we're just getting into the rhythm?
I don't know. I'm ready to dance.
It's like riding a bike, man. It's like riding a bike.
Well, for me, it's not. I was actually like looking back at some episodes, and I feel like I get better as the evening goes along. That's why the classics and sound-offs are almost so much better, because I'm getting into the rhythm. Maybe I need to like a practice run or something with other U's. Like, do you guys have stand-ins that I could practice with, and I can get the photo rhythm down and all that sort of stuff? What do you think?
We could get like cardboard cutouts.
Maybe we could do. I'm sure someone will volunteer. Tweet JB if you're interested in the job.
Yeah, like a fake discussion of a fake movie or something. Is that maybe that's possible?
A fake movie, huh? All right.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, guys. So anyway, one of the things that so it's time to. You already know it's King and I. The trivia answers, or I guess it wasn't trivia, but I hinted at the last episode, which was back in August. Was it 3rd or something crazy like that? No, August 18th. August 18th was our last episode. And I hinted that it was one of the movies that we went to see at TCM Fest. So many of you that follow me on Twitter knows those movies, and you know his Twitter. Here is us in a line going to see The King and I. And it was one of their larger, it was one of their event screenings, if you will. Here you might be able to see that there is a full-on poster of it. Like the main poster for the festival featured The King and I, and so forth and so on. And we also got a nice Q&A with Tup Tim herself. And here you can see Oscar winner Rita Moreno, a rare EGOT winner. It's not the best picture, but I zoomed in when I can. This is from my phone, guys, so give me a break. I don't have the top-notch photography technology you guys have. Sorry. But that's Leonard Maltin on the right, if you recognize him. And he's interviewing Rita Moreno, even though she's probably more famous for West Side Story, for which she won an Oscar. And she is, I think I said this, a rare EGOT winner, which might count, ladies and gentlemen, because I think I just dropped some knowledge on you all. So that is time for our alert here. Where'd it go?
Bits. Everybody get ready for JB's bits. He's going to put them on screen.
Right. It's a trivia tidbit. Rita Moreno, an EGOT winner. So anyway, that's that. On Facebook, the trivia question was that back when we were shooting this on August 29th, the film was actually in theaters playing at the TCM was releasing it nationwide on August 28th and August 31st. And so I don't suppose either of you guys went to any of those screenings.
No.
No, we did not.
Okay. How can you speak for Davy Joe?
He just knows me that well.
One of these days, you're going to surprise him, I think.
Nah.
If you're interested in more photos from our trip to TCM Fest, they'll be on our Facebook page tomorrow morning, so Pacific time anyway. So check out our Facebook page and you can see some more photos from our trip to TCM Fest, at least the King and I. There are other films that I went to see to TCM Fest, including Face of the Crowd, one of our 1966 films that I'll talk about at our year-end review, and also one other film that we're going to talk about in a few months. Was one of our films for discussion. Is one of our classic films for discussion in a few months. Sorry, rambling. It's time for the summary, right?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So many of you know that this is a true story of Anna Lee Owens, a British teacher who took a job in the Kingdom of Siam to instruct the palace children as a part of the king's controversial plan to make Siam, which is now Thailand, a more modern country. You guys can't see Jay Money now, but he's totally like falling asleep during this summary. In spite of their many differences, Anna and the king strike up an unlikely bond, and that transcends the traditional notions of romantic love. The story was made into a Broadway musical in 1951, and this is the 1956 film version of the famous Rodgers and Hammerstein play. All right, so I'm going to start with Davy Joe's opening thoughts because he traditionally will not even give musicals a chance. So he hates musicals, so we're already braced for what he's going to say. Davy Joe, opening thoughts.
It's not true. I don't hate musicals. I hated this musical, and it made me appreciate Oklahoma a lot more.
Well, doing Rodgers and Hammerstein top 5 later, so we'll get into that specific breakdown. But Jay Money, save me a little bit.
I'll save you a little bit. I respect this musical more than I like it. I mean, it's a classic. You can't bash it, obviously, but I personally don't like it that much.
Well, let me first say what the boys thought. Here's us right on Hollywood Boulevard before going in. There's a few of us anyway. Neither of them had seen the film before, and so those unfamiliar with the play, one of them was some of them were familiar with the play. Some of them weren't. Those that weren't familiar with the play weren't really engaged by the characters or the songs. So that's like the David camp. Those that that were familiar with the play did like it a lot, and they liked their favorite things were the music and particularly the character of the king. That's what really seemed to grab their focus. For me, I think it's not a good film. I think it's a great musical. It's not a good film. And one of the things that makes a great musical is and we talked about this in Oklahoma, like the music. The music is so good. Like every song, nearly every song is a classic. Every song in Oklahoma class is a classic. Nearly every song in this one. And modern musicals just don't have that ratio. That's like a batting average of 900. I also like the king as the character. I mean, in terms of the music, the melodic simplicity, and there's one great song that is not simple, and we're going to talk about that. I also at some point want to. I also think that the sets are extraordinary in this movie, and that in terms of actual set design. However, one of my main issues is film direction. I mean, it was directed like a play, and they almost used the sets as if they were play sets instead of film sets. And you can't see Jay Money nodding right now, and he is, so we'll talk to him. It's a poorly directed film. It's blocked like a stage play, and it's a real problem because there's a lot of depth and interesting things in this film that were left at the table. It was a missed opportunity. I'm not going to say it's a bad film. I love seeing it on the big screen. So opulent. We saw it at the Big Man's Chinese Theater. That was an experience. But it's still as issues as a film. Jay Money, you're nodding, so I'll let you talk about the direction a little bit.
Well, I guess back to your point about the soundstage. I mean, to me, it's like, yes, I agree that the the set design and like a lot of the detail work in terms of the actual production design of it was impressive. But at the end of the day, I was always aware that we were on like a soundstage. It was a very big, empty, vast space, and there were really only, I think, 3 or 4 basic like set scenes, perhaps. I mean, it felt like they were going back and forth between a lot of very similar territory.
3 or 4 basic sets. Like
basic sets, okay.
Not scenes, but I mean, so, like, they were going back and forth between different rooms within the palace.
Yeah. So I guess from that point of view, it felt really repetitive at a certain point. And also, I mean, for me, I want the over-the-top sort of like crazy production value stuff to musicals. And this one, it didn't provide it all the time. It provided it in some specific parts of it, but it didn't go all the way. So. And
2 points to that. I mean, JB brought up Oklahoma earlier, which was a film we reviewed in episode 23.3, and it was shot on location, Oklahoma. Hard to do for music, but it was shot before this. It was a year before this. Shot on location, so props for that. And also, I mean, like, I don't know if either of you remember, but when I was with my ex that introduced me to you two, in 2006, we had a project similar to the project that we're doing right now. We had a project where and since you know that should be open to this, we watched 25 films from 1956. And at the time, it was 50 years prior. And it was the first time I had done anything like that. Whoa, I just got a big close-up of your octopus painting there, Tiger.
Yeah, I'm having some camera issues. Keep going.
Okay. I shouldn't have cut to you then. Sorry. So anyway, we watched a ton of movies from 1956. And so to point, shooting on the soundstage the way the King and I did was not something that it needed to do. Like Oklahoma had done it without doing that beforehand. There was nothing about the King and I or that required that, or the time period, I should say, that required that. It was either laziness or a choice or what have you, but it really felt claustrophobic. Now, David, do you think that gets to the bottom of what your issue is?
It's funny. No, it doesn't, because I don't.
That is funny.
I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with just showing something, shooting it like a play, just setting the camera up and letting me watch the people act. I think what really irritates me about this movie, and I'm sure we'll get to it later, is I think it's got horrible tone issues, and that's what really bothers me about it.
Within the story itself.
Well, I mean, I think that ultimately the story is very compelling. It's you're talking about ending slavery and things of that magnitude. It could be a great story, but the interspersed with the silliness and going back and forth, it's just obnoxious, and it just I can't get into it. It's just a block. It's just impossible for me to kind of get into a group with this film.
What's obnoxious? I missed something.
Well, I mean, I mean, we're talking, like it just seems like one moment it's kind of silly, not on any level ever funny, but just kind of silly. But there's a gravity to what they're talking about, and if they could just kind of be serious about it for a minute, or at least kind of lock into a tone for a while, it would be something that maybe could be engaging, but it doesn't do that, and I just can't stand it.
Well, I mean, I disagree. I think because I don't think it had a tonal issue. Like, I feel like it has things that it's covering, but I mean, certainly, because I mean, like, I think the book of the musical is actually pretty strong, and I think the comic elements serve the dramatic elements. If it's an issue between comedy and drama, I mean, like, there are some hokey scenes which we can get into if you like, but because I was going to do the good scenes first, but I mean, it sounds like the natural segues to the hokey scenes. But I mean, like, I'm unclear about what you mean about this tonal issue. Jay Money, do you want to translate, or are you also confused?
Yeah, I don't know about that either. I didn't really feel like there were a lot of problems for me with the tone. I wonder, David Joe, if you're responding to just the attempt at humor, I guess, in some ways. I mean, it was a very
that's
broad
how I
scope.
interpreted his comment too. But I mean, like I did find the funny parts funny, which we'll get into. I mean,
Really?
and even J Money seems to enjoy the et ceteras.
Is that enjoyment or is that mocking? I mean, it wasn't.
I don't know.
That's funny? That's a
Well,
joke? Like there's a joke there?
I think it is. No, I mean, certainly there's a joke in terms of him adjusting like his old school ways. There's a fish out of water quality to it, and since his old school ways trying to learn new school ways. I mean, yeah, it's a tale as old as time type of comedy element. You know what I mean? Like that like getting used to something new, something that we're very used to, like words like et cetera and so forth. And I did so forth. I didn't even mean to. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a comedy to that.
I mean, I think that was the intention, certainly. I don't think it landed for me as much as it probably did for audiences back in the time. So I guess that's what I'm wondering if Davy Joe is kind of reacting to what he was playing to audiences back then, not translating for him anymore, or if there really are some tonal issues that are separate.
So I mean, like, is it the attempted humor that is your issue? Do you think
it's the attempted humor and it's just sort of the silliness that kind of, I think, impedes.
Well, it's not like it was slapstick. It's not like they were like,
well,
it's
not slapstick, but there's definitely a levity to it when we're talking about some pretty serious stuff, getting,
yep.
I
mean, that's true of Oklahoma as well, but I guess that's not a good example to use for you.
That to me that's just musicals. That's just how.
Well, I mean, like certainly musicals of the time. I mean, like musicals have evolved, and when I go over their top fives, I mean, Rodgers and Hammerstein certainly have some darker musicals, and we'll talk about that in the sound off. But certainly, yeah, the popular element of the time like had this element of humor, and that's true. I mean, like I think there's a good balance. I think that's true of Oklahoma. I think that's true of King and I. Even South Pacific, which we might talk about later on. There's real themes in a lot of their work, but yeah, I mean, like, and I think even like movies that you enjoy, like Creed, for example, and even Spotlight, like sobering films for the most part. I guess Spotlight's a better example as a sobering film. The Big Short, sobering film, tons laced with great humor that helps the overall entertainment value.
Well,
it's like the like when you put the flavored in the castor oil to like help it go down better. The spoonful of sugar type thing.
There you go.
Great musical.
Yeah, but there's a dryness to it, and there's an edge. It doesn't go completely. Look, I don't need something to get on the rails and stay. But I just think that I can't lock in.
I wonder. I'm listening to David
sure.
talk about this now, and I'm wondering if it really comes down to Yul Brynner's performance.
Which is, I think, not
an Oscar-winning performance.
I know it is, and I don't see it, man. I really don't.
You know who was who in our 1956 thing who I voted for that year, that was not even nominated.
What?
Who was it?
John Wayne and the Searchers should have won that year.
Ah.
Oh, are you kidding? I mean, yeah. I mean, that's that. Seriously, he beat John Wayne in the Searchers.
John Wayne wasn't even nominated, yo.
Come on.
I mean, like, granted, Searchers is far and away a better movie. King and I didn't even make my top 10 of 1956, but no, I'm not going to call it a bad movie. I call it a missed opportunity. And your issues seem to be with the musical itself and not the film version of the musical, which is where my issues lie. And some examples of some hokey scenes, I think. Oh no, I didn't. This should have been a new photo. Hold on, let me see. I thought I had a new photo ready to go for you guys, but oh, I see. Is this
Now, Yul Brynner actually didn't he originate the performance of this on Broadway to begin with?
Yeah.
Yes,
this is his role. He owned it for years and years. He even did a Broadway revival of it later in his life in like the late 70s, early 80s. So he played. This was like the role for him. He originated on Broadway, brought it back, and also in fairness, Yul Brynner and this year had. I'll take this picture off while I do this right now. He also had the 10 Commandments come out in 1956 and Anastasia. So it was the year of Yul
Big year.
Brynner too.
Yeah.
So like it was like he was the Alicia Vikander of 1956. So
the reason I know that is because apparently my grandparents saw it on Broadway, and they saw Yul Brynner, in the title role. And ever since, like growing up in my childhood, I always heard about how much my grandmother had the hots for Yul Brynner after watching him on Broadway in that role. And you know what? Honestly, I love him in this movie. That to me is the one thing that sticks out for me in this movie.
Yeah. Well, let's get to that in a second. I mean, well, now because we were talking about the things that were bothering Davey, I want to unpack that, but I will get back to that. But now I've got the picture of. I mean, I acknowledge there's some really hokey scenes, and the opening on the boat certainly is a rough start to the movie. The kid is a problem, and also, I mean, like, of course, obviously, Deborah Kerr is being dubbed here by Marnie Nixon, and it being on a boat, and so clearly a stage. It all feels very, very. Like it's the one time we're out of the palace, and it's like it feels like we're still indoors. It feels very awkward. The little boy is terrible, and
it's really bad.
Whistle a Happy Tune is a great song, but it doesn't have the energy to really start the movie like you want it to, and it works so much better on stage. I don't know exactly why. And the Tup Team scenes are the other ones that stand out to me. That me and the group always just like. And Rita Moreno's an Oscar-winning actress herself, but there was something about the way that they orchestrated those scenes. There was Tup Team has a lot more depth in the play, and they hinted at it in the film version, but with the Uncle Tom's Cabin thing. But we never really got to see it here. Now, Davy Joe, I'm wondering if those like scenes that struggle, and I acknowledge that they're bad scenes, are they the real issues here? But then. I mean, I wonder if, like, it's more the romantic element that bothered me. Like, the Tup Team, like, that stuff was over the top for me, so I sort of, like, tuned it out. And if that is a tonal issue, that's where it lies for me. But is that getting to the bottom of maybe what your issue is?
The opening scene is to go back to a word that you used in the last segment. It's contrived. I mean, it's just the shoehorning that song in.
That's how the book opens. That's how the musical opens on the ship and everything. But you can forgive.
Yes, I agree. It's I don't even consider. The scene is so awful and bad and not necessary that it just I didn't even factor it into the.
Well, I mean, it's expositional, so it's necessary. It's just awkwardly directed. I put that squarely in Walter Lang's shoulders.
Sure. But I don't know. Honestly though, I don't know that that's fixable. That I maybe just cut it out altogether. But it's a great song. You can't skip that song though. So I don't know what you do with that.
Yeah, no, there's something. There has to be something. I'm telling you, I haven't thought about it, but I would have. I would have figured out something.
Okay.
So I'm going to travel back to 1955, take over this movie, and we'll all be good. And maybe I'll have sex with Rita Moreno.
When you do the show, when you do the movie yourself, I can't wait to see how you handle that.
Thank you very much. Anyway, there's somewhere to go. Like, you wanted to talk about Yul Brynner. I wanted to point out to Davey some scenes that I thought were really great. So, do you want to do Yul Brynner first, or do you want to do the scenes? We've only a few minutes left.
You go ahead with the scenes. That's fine.
Okay, we'll come to Yul Brynner. I mean, my buddies also, like I think I said in the opening, they really liked the character of the king, and I think. It's not just Yul Brynner. The king is a very complicated, interesting character, and I think that manifests itself in some of these scenes that I thought, were really well done. And it's all in the book. It's not really Walter Lang. This is where Hammerstein really comes in. If anybody, the scenes where she's advising without really advising, this little who's the boss type dance that they do, where he doesn't want to take it, advice from a woman, and yet. She finds ways to sort of hint things at him so that he thinks that they're his idea. I think that those are some delicately performed and written scenes, really well executed. The camera just sits there and just lets them, follows them around. But I think that they're great, really well written scenes, and you know, are executed well from that point of view. The other scene that I thought that we all loved is when it starts to get a little artsy with the Uncle Tom's Cabin sequence, which is this sort of like beautiful melding of East and West, but also the obvious themes of racism. You know, like, and you're wondering, is he bright enough to get the hints? But you also know him as to not be that bad of a guy. He's just set from a different time, and it makes you wonder about racism, you know, today too. Like, people just like, it's about the education to some degree. And the other scene that I thought was really beautiful is probably the most famous one. Like, such in terms of like the way they deal with their relationship, like the nuance and subtlety of their love for each other comes out beautifully in this "Shall We Dance" number. So I mean, these are the scenes that I think really make the movie not, you know, like, it balances out almost those terrible scenes. And again, it's not Walter Lang. I think these are just strong scenes in the book that he got lucky to direct. So anyway, what do you guys think about those scenes? Or also other scenes that you enjoyed that I might have missed?
No, those are all good picks. I'm trying to think of other scenes as well. I really, for instance, I think for me, on the three that you mentioned, the play within the play, the Uncle Tom's Cabin, stuck out certainly because it's, I think, one of the most creative of what we saw in the movie version, especially just in terms of all the extra elements that they brought into it, within the staging, and the fact that it had all these crazy costumes. I mean, there was a lot of things that were going on that were pretty interesting and impressive about it. I guess, the initial harem scene to me was actually really interesting because it was one of the few scenes I thought that actually took advantage of the expanse of the soundstage more so than a lot of the other scenes. I mean, they sort of did as well for some of the bigger party scenes towards the end when they were actually pulling in all the extras and everything. But the shots of her coming into this really large and foreign environment and how, sort of like unsettling it was and how it felt kind of chaotic at first. I thought that was actually a pretty interesting idea. That's what I got, Davy Joe.
Anything, Davy Joe? Anything that was worthwhile for you?
No, I liked absolutely nothing about this. Nothing.
You liked what?
Not like nothing. I didn't. I
like the Davy Joe's.
So what is your reaction to those scenes that I mentioned?
Nothing. I didn't like. I disliked them. I maybe disliked them less, I guess, than some other scenes.
But what's wrong with them then? What is like?
First of all, I at no point did I enjoy. Look, here's the deal. Maybe it's just maybe I just don't like it. Maybe Yul Brynner. I didn't enjoy the performance at all. On the other hand, I don't know what you do with that.
But why?
Because it's just off to me. It just, I can't, the movie, like, it's the whole concept of the film is, I think that there's a basis there for a great story, but the way it's executed is just so awful to me. I mean, I can't, we're talking about ultimately Uncle Tom's Cabin is incredibly heavy. You're talking about slavery, and you're talking about freeing slaves and freeing a country ultimately, and I can't do the silliness in the middle of all that. Like, I can't take.
What was the silliness in the middle of Uncle Tom's Cabin?
No, well, not during that play, which not during the play, but in and around it, just what's going on at the table and the score. Oh my God, I hate the score. The score is just grating. It's just grating and painful and obnoxious and unrelenting. The songs are, first of all, there's terrific songwriting. I'm not gonna say anything bad about the songs, but the score itself is just.
But the score is derived from the songs.
Yeah, but man, it's bad. In the songs, look.
No, wait a minute. Hold on.
Wait.
It's clearly not bad. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, you have to study music for 20 years before you can tell me that this is badly composed music.
It's not. No, I didn't say that. The songwriting is terrific. The arrangements are awful to me. I mean, look, it's personal opinion. it's like a knife in the ear. I look at Rodgers and Hammerstein. I'm a jazz guy. These songs are standards, and I've heard them millions of times in incredibly, and I play them over and over again. I love this music, but the way that it's presented, the arrangements here are just I can't take it, man. I just can't. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, like I understand.
You're really gonna enjoy our top 5 tonight.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to
it. David, J Money, will you at least defend Yul Brynner here?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting. The reason I like Yul Brynner so much is because in some ways he is the least anglicized element in the story. I mean, you know, they really could have made him a much easier, softer-edged kind of character, something that fell more in line with like certain qualities of the rest of the musical. But his character really stands out, like a nail, really. I mean, his sort of cadence, his patter, the way he talks, which to me is actually incredibly complicated. It must have been complicated to perform in the way that he did. That might be the juxtaposition that Davey is struggling with. I mean, you know, Yul Brynner's character in this movie feels really at odds with the movie, and that's why I like it so much.
No, I agree. I mean, like, there's layers to him, and he's very. I think it's what we said earlier. He's a very complex character, and this number that I put a picture of right now, and for the audience listening on podcast, I put a picture up from his number called Puzzlement, which I think is the most fascinating number in the whole piece because it's not really melodic, and it is really it sort of stands out from the rest of the score in that way. And maybe that means Davy Joe liked it maybe more, but it's this interesting, you know, like it's this internal struggle within him, you know, like, and I think this song really captures that and, you know, just displays that for the audience and clarifies that for the audience in a way that I think, you know, he's a slave owner ultimately. He's a tyrant from the outside, but we know him to be struggling with these issues and not understanding the ramifications of his actions, and it makes him lovable in a way. And I think as far as like what a song advancing a story, I think it's kind of a masterpiece from that point of view. Anybody? Yeah. And he performs it well. I mean, there's a lot of his performance, but I think from a songwriting point of view, like it's interesting melodically, and also, you know, like I think it's a great character piece. Davey, can you at least see that much?
Yeah, sure. You got it, man.
That means he's bored and he wants to move on. But one thing that I want to no, I'm a Davey translator. One thing that I want to go over with you guys is I do feel like there was a number of like Davey saw some of the themes that had potential to cover, and I think it does. And I wanted to see if you guys want to talk about any of them. One, the themes that I saw in the movie is the East versus West, tradition versus progress, women's rights, feminism, you know, in this movie, and the nature of love itself. Is there any of those themes that you feel like stood out more than others, and any that you want to comment on before we move to the brackets?
You know, to me, I think the movie is entirely about East versus West. I mean, I guess it's, you know, it has the other elements you're talking about, but it seems like the whole crux of the story is about the, you know, the. So I mean,
tradition versus progress, women's right. It's sort of within the East versus West banner, I guess.
Yeah, because I think that, especially considering the source material, it's still framed from a Western perspective to begin with. I mean, it still is about how this, you know, this person's going into a strange new world and sort of bringing her interpretation of culture and civility into a place that doesn't necessarily exist. And you're watching the struggle on screen. You're watching the struggle, I guess, with her in the book itself. But that, to me, is the basis for everything. I mean, it's the basis for her standing up as a female character. It's the basis for the discussion about racism. It's because, you know, she always points to the West as sort of the standard for that stuff. She's always saying, well, in the West, we have this, we have Lincoln, we have, you know, I'm a teacher who has my own.
She's British, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but still the Western culture in general. So,
and it's almost in a, you know, like in a way, there's no way the West could be wrong. You know, it's almost like this American cockiness or British cockiness at the time. You know, I guess the British were the Americans of the 19th century, I guess would be. So
yeah, it could have the story itself could have gone a lot worse in that sense. It could have felt a lot more contrived by the end of it. It could have gone in a direction of see, we told you so sort of thing by the end of it, but it didn't really. I mean, it kind of didn't.
I also think that there's something to be said about their relationship, though. Like, I think there's something beautiful about their non-romantic romantic love. You know, like their relationship, I think, was beautifully subtle and nuanced, and that's all in the text. I don't think Walter Lang added to that, but I also think he didn't detract from it either. I think that's really like special. Like, it's a friendship, but it's more. I think that it's really unique in the history of movies. This level of this relationship.
Yeah, I'm sure they were friends with benefits.
What's that?
We're friends with benefits, right? I mean, you know, she was staying at the
well, I mean, has anybody seen the Jodie Foster Chow Fat version?
No, I was just going to ask you that if you had seen it and if you could compare them.
I'm intrigued by it, though. I'm intrigued by it.
I mean, and Davey, would this be an appropriate Davey scale for this one?
Absolutely, yes. No question.
Now, Davey, if you think this is brutal, I encourage you to watch the 1999 animated version of this.
Yeah, that's
with the same music, but it's animated.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm gonna put that on your leftovers list because I know how eager you are.
I will give it as much attention as I have all the other movies on the leftovers.
Oh, that hurts me. You know that hurts me. You're gonna see. You would like some of those movies on the rest of that leftovers list.
That is without a doubt. True.
And you'll see how engaging conversations can be in the sound off. So anyway, let us do the bracket. And Davey Joe, you ready?
Yeah. Oh right. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a job to do. Now let's see if you can top yourself.
All right. So the seating criteria varies from bracket to bracket. Films are shown at JB hosted screenings, and they need to be 15 years or older, meaning from 2001 or before. Voters are eligible if they see both films within a 12-month period. Voters must see films in JB's presence. JB is ineligible to vote, but he does break ties.
All right, so we have the 50s bracket tonight, and brackets just like the NCAA tournament works the same way. Seeds 1 through 16 in 4 different quadrants. Sports fans will know what I'm talking about. Davey Joe, there's a big Syracuse guy. Jay Money also went to Syracuse, but does not know they have a basketball team. So we're in the 50s bracket today, and so we saw this in April, and the movie that it goes up against is a movie that we saw previous May. So it was a good 11 months in between, and it was a film that the three of us talked about, I think, in August. I don't remember when we talked about it, but it was episode 14.3, and here's the matchup. 14, King and I from is that supposed to be 1956? Can't see
Probably.
That. Yeah. And Vertigo from 1958 was a number 3 seed. Obviously a very high seed for Vertigo. I mean, like, I almost don't even want to ask Davey, but I mean, like, I feel like I need to. And again, these guys, their votes aren't official. They were voted on by the people that went to both screenings with us. But here is a still from Vertigo in the meantime. Davey, you were a fan of Vertigo, as I recall.
Oh, I loved it.
Okay. So you are going to be voting for Vertigo, I presume.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And again, these votes don't count. I just am curious how these guys land. Jay Money. Jay Money.
Hello, I'm back. There we go.
What do you think, Jay Money?
You want to take a guess where I'm going to go with this one?
I mean, like, I'd like you to, like, maybe give a sentence as to what you were thinking and why.
Vertical rules. King and I drools.
Wow.
That
was awesome.
Is that it's not that bad. I mean, like, come on.
No, but Vertigo is, to me, as far as I'm concerned, Vertigo is a far superior film.
I mean, like, and I mean, like, as much as I play devil's advocate with you guys, I'm not going to disagree. And it was a unanimous vote. It wasn't even close. And it's almost an unfair matchup for the King and I, quite frankly. It was soundly defeated. What's that?
I honestly feel like it really is. I mean, on a couple levels. I really don't know if you can. I don't know if it's fair to put a musical up against a non-musical. An entirely different language, an entirely different.
Well, I mean, there've been plenty of musicals that have
system of.
Yeah, I mean.
What's that?
There are plenty of musicals that have won in their matchups.
Yeah, like when.
But I guess I feel like it's two apples and oranges.
I mean, I know we do a lot of apples and oranges things, and it's fair to put King and I in the top 64 movies of the 50s because it was a huge hit, and it was a Best Picture nominee, and a Best Actor winner.
Best Actor, yeah.
It was, sadly enough, it was a Best Director nominee as well, and John Ford wasn't even nominated for The Searchers, so. It was hugely successful and one of the most important films of the decade. I mean, like Vertigo is now considered the greatest film of all time, so it is a difficult matchup. But it'll be interesting to see how Vertigo continues as it goes through the 50s bracket. And you can't underestimate the importance of musicals in the 50s and 60s. They were one of the most important genres. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree to some degree. No intention of rhyming there, but I think that. Like it is what it is, and I can't disregard it, when ranking the films of the 50s,
No, of course. I understand
that. Cool. All right. So it is 6:56 Pacific, so I'm going to try and move on very quickly. And our next film, my little tease, my next film is an Oscar-winning film. It has an Oscar-winning performance. And it is one of 5 films historically in which an actor or actress has won back-to-back Academy Awards in the same category. So this film is the second one to in a back-to-back Oscar-winning performance for that same actor. Does that make sense to you guys? I'm trying to word that in a way that was clear.
Sure.
Do you guys know what I'm saying? I know you don't know the answer per se, but.
That was good. It was good.
J Money, is J Money gone?
No, he's there.
I keep dropping in and out. I keep dropping in and out. Honestly, I didn't hear.
Did you hear my tease? And I'm wondering if it made any sense.
I didn't hear your tease.
I said it's an Oscar-winning performance, one of 5 times historically in which an actor or actress has won back-to-back Oscars. So that's the hint. It's one of the 5 times. It's a film from one of the 5 times that an actor has won back-to-back Oscars.
Yeah, so
there you go.
Multiple times. Yeah,
okay,
that makes sense.
All right, great. I made sense. That's all that I really ever want to do. Speaking of making sense, I'm about to make a lot of sense in the sound off. I got a top 5 Rodgers and Hammerstein. I got a second run. Davey's going to go off in his diatribe, I think. And that's all in our freeform segment coming up in a few minutes. All right. Should we say 7:15 again, or should we just as soon as possible?
No, just
ASAP.
Start when we start. That's
all right.
fine.
So we'll start when we start. You'll see a link. Keep posted. I'll see you guys at the sound off momentarily.